Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Welcome back after a month of not seeing you. We've missed you.
Yes.
Welcome to our Two Gals in a Book club. This month, or in this session, we will be discussing Liliana's Invincible Summer by Cristina Rivera Garza. Today, we will flip page by page, or we'll skip a couple, and we will have a conversation with you about the book. And as we go, you will learn a little bit about us and hopefully a little bit about you.
Yes. So something that I realized when I think I was reading or something about this book, it's actually a Pulitzer winner. And I noticed that your book has it.
Yes.
Mine didn't. I got it from the library, but it is definitely, it's a winner. Let me read the beginning part here. So this is what was intriguing and why we chose it. Well, I think we already talked about why we chose this book, but I will read this.
Just to tell you what it's about in case you have not read it.
Yeah, if you haven't, you will learn something about this author. We did. October 18th, 2019, Cristina Rivera Garza travels from her home in Texas to Mexico City in search of an old, unresolved criminal file. My name is Cristina Rivera Garza, she writes in her request to Attorney General, and I am writing to you as a relative of Liliana Rivera Garza, who was murdered on July 16, 1990. It's been 29 years, 3 months, and 2 days since Liliana was murdered by an abusive ex-boyfriend. And Cristina knows that there is only a slim chance of recovering the file. So, I'll be honest with you. I remember when I think I'm the one that chose this one because we couldn't find the other book by Cristina Rivera Garza, and this one was available. And you mentioned that Naomi, your daughter, already had it. And when I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, great. It sounds like something I would like, right? Because it's murder, not mystery, but murder, right? Little did I know, honestly, I should have read the beginning part here. It's an autobiography and a memoir, and I was not aware of that going in. So I was like, in the beginning, I was like, wait, what? This actually happened? This is real? And it's about her sister. So this is something that she wrote 29 years, or no, she goes in search of this file 29 years after her sister was murdered. So this is the journey that she goes through to try and recover these files. They do know who murdered her, and it does take you through the whole process and before, during, and after.
I think maybe the book was such a winner because it really captures the femicide problem in Mexico and in many other countries, but I mean, this one is based in Mexico. And how right off the bat, you know who did it. And this family waits for decades to get justice, and they go back and do what the system asks of them, and they still get no justice. And you're just, I don't know about you, Lily, but I was angry the whole time.
I was a lot of
angry. I felt the heaviness and the sorrow that this family must have felt. And the fact that Cristina dropped everything, her life here in Texas, to go and figure this out, to get closure. And she, I mean, I don't know how she feels, but the fact that that man is still out there at large, I can only imagine.
Yeah. No, that's hard. And will she ever get closure if he doesn't get caught? Right?
But I mean, I think we can agree that the writing process is definitely a healing process. And let's hope that at least writing this book gave her that and made us all aware and reminded us of a problem that continues to plague Mexico, a country that we have ties to.
Yes. And it was written in Spanish. We're reading it in English, and she actually translated her own book into English. And from what I understand, that's not something that happens usually. So she did this herself. From listening to an interview with her, it sounds like the English version was a little bit different than the Spanish one, but the premise is still the same. Very poetic. Very, very poetic, very descriptive. And I think you could tell that she writes, I mean, English is her second language, so I'm sure her Spanish is beautiful as well. So we're going to get started with
page 18, unless...
page 18. I have something before. Okay. I'm up on page 12. And it says, why did it take her so long? And it talks about here that Araceli said 29 years after her murder, her younger sister's murder, she goes back to try and recover or retrieve a file. But my question is, why did it take 29 years for her to go back? Because around this time, I think they were sending her, oh, go to this office. Oh, go. We don't have it. Go to this office. We have a different system. Everything's digital. Go to this. And so she's going around Mexico City, I think with a friend or a lawyer or somebody, right? And no answers, no file. So I was getting frustrated for her. Like, this poor lady.
And remember, this is her as a woman, a grown woman, a professional. Why wait so long? Because when her sister was murdered, she was studying abroad in the United States. She was only a couple of years older than her sister. She was in her maybe mid-20s. Like, how do you even navigate that system at such a young age? So maybe that's why she waited. And life happens, right? And the years go by. And I don't, it's been a while since I've read it. I don't remember if she tells us exactly why it took so long. But I think it's a safe bet to say that, you know, those are the reasons why.
Well, one of the interview that I was listening to, the hostess was asking her something about why did it take so long for her to write the book, and she said life happens, right? She was in other projects, but then she started a version in English, in Spanish or in English, I don't remember. And her husband, she asked her husband to read it, and her husband's like, maybe not. Maybe you should keep this to yourself because it wasn't good to her standards. But then she started writing portions of it in English, some portions of it in Spanish, is why she wrote both English and Spanish. So, and then COVID happened, and she felt like, I need to do this now before I die, because she didn't know what was going to happen. So, and I think that's where it takes her. In the book, it does tell you she does go to Mexico, Toluca, where they're from. And that's where she got a lot of letters. And this book is letters.
A little bit of everything.
A little bit of her, Liliana's letters, because she was also a writer. And so I think that's what gave her the fuel, kind of like, I have material to write about her story. And that's where it comes. So I guess that's why, because to me it felt like 29 years, huh? 29
You know, and
years.
speaking of the letters, I jotted down something here about themes and how back in our day, we would have diaries, we would write letters to each other, notes, and you have to wonder what this will look like in future generations, where a lot of young men and women text each other, right, or leave voice messages. But this is not. I just wondered like what that would look like if this happened nowadays. Like, the fact that she had all those letters. Times have definitely changed. Kids, I think a lot of it is documented with pictures, right? With selfies. Instead of actual narration or prose.
True.
But 18 or not yet?
I'm 18. Yeah, me too.
So I think you might have the same line that I have. Can you enjoy life while you are in pain?
And this is asking, can you, after her sister died, are you able to enjoy life? And it's the same sentence, actually. I wrote, I think it's important to try.
And you must. It's the only way you're going to survive. Like, how can you continue living a life of sadness and sorrow? But it was definitely a question that makes you wonder. Right? It's you just must.
Some people can't and won't or won't, right? Because they want to hold on to that memory, those thoughts, but that's also bringing you down as well, right? All right. So the book does start when Cristina Rivera Garza is in Mexico looking for this file. That's the beginning part of this book. Then it moves into...
I think we're in the same page.
Oh, on page 27?
Let me start with 26 before you go on to that thought. On page 26, I wrote something about the importance of the written word and the censorship that books and journalists are living, nowadays as well. I'll read a quote. She says, without this file I am after, her experience on earth will be as good as nothing, her memory erased. In the future, I tell myself as I try to escape this moment, I will say that this is when I realize that I must write. I must replace this file I may never find. There is no other option. In the future, I will say, this is the split second in which I understood how writing defies the state. I just feel like she stated that beautifully, right? You must document in order to be remembered.
Yeah. And she did it well for her sister right here. Yeah. So, and then the next page, it talks about femicide. Femicide was not officially recognized in Mexico until June 14th, 2012, 13 years ago. So you think, wow, that was recent, right? And then it talks about Costa Rica. No, I found it somewhere because I think I started researching femicide. And how, 13 years ago in Mexico, they finally recognized femicide, as a crime. It was, I texted you that morning, remember? And I said, does the U.S. recognize femicide, right? And actually, no. No, the U.S. does not. Costa Rica. Costa Rica was the first country to legally define femicide as a crime in 2007.
It's so recent.
In the 2000s. And Costa Rica has done it. Other countries in Central America and Latin America, Mexico, and the U.S. hasn't.
To be killed because you're a woman. That is the definition. Simple as that.
Because they call it, it's a crime of passion. It's like, but there's a difference, right? These guys are getting away with, it's a crime of passion. He was not in the right state of mind. That's different than femicide. And so she talks about that. She brings that up, and that's important to bring up because it's still happening today here in the U.S. and Mexico and other countries as well.
All over the world,
Everywhere. And it's important that it be brought up to light. It's not something that should be brushed under the rug. So I thought that was important. Costa Rica in 2007 was the first country.
I'm way ahead until page 50. I see you have
page
a couple
50.
of
I do. Page 33 right here. Adrenaline powerful. Let's see. If I didn't see it, I would think it was just my imagination or a sick joke or a mediocre life. But you're looking at it, I tell her. I'm looking at it, she nods. We don't have to agree again. We don't have to say a word, but we raise the glasses of mineral water at the same time. We are going to topple it. We say, echoing so many women's voices. Patriarchy will not fall on its own. We have to tear it down. Together we say, and our glasses clink. I think this is, I don't know if they were witnessing something. Her and her friend, they were at a restaurant, and they were witnessing something. You're going to have to cut this part off.
And, I mean, even if we don't remember the details of the quote, that's a very strong statement. Patriarchy will not fall on its own. Right? Go ahead.
I remember what it was. It was something about at a university, there was this professor, right, that he was having a relationship with a student or something that's frowned upon or something, right? I don't know if he got let go. It says right here, the details are here. He was accused of sexual harassment and was not allowed to set foot in the Iberoamericana campus. But yet, there he was, having dinner with one of his students.
Wow.
And that's when they just shook their head and kind of was like, you know what? We got to do this. And they clicked glasses, kind of like it was very powerful. They were both seeing the same thing, but they were thinking the same thing. We have to tear it down together, we say. Patriarchy will not fall on its own. It's obviously this professor did not learn his lesson and is still doing it because what was the consequence? Was there a consequence? Just, you're not allowed to step foot in this university. That was it. So I think that's why it's like the adrenaline. They saw that. They got angry. It's like, we need to do something about it. And then I have something on page Lost Art.
Which
my 50.
Okay.
My sister
That's
She's talking about Liliana. My sister's generation moved away from cursive. So it's talking about how when Cristina went to school, I believe she wrote in cursive. She said her sister's generation moved away from cursive as many found it hard to read and learned instead to write in block script. I remember learning to write in cursive in 3rd grade. We did. I don't know if it's still happening now.
I think they're bringing it back.
They're bringing it back, yes.
But I have to say, like, speaking of getting to know us.
Yes.
Museums have a lot of letters that they have on display. And I have this story about my kids where we all went and we were reading letters that were in cursive. I forget what the exhibit was. I think it was soldiers that had written letters. And my daughter, a 20-year-old, she wasn't 20, she's 20 now, but it was a while back.
Yeah.
She could not understand the cursive because she was not taught. She's that generation that was not taught how to write and read cursive. And yes, there was a debate. Is it necessary? Is it a waste of time? Is it an art? And whatever powers that be decided it, I hear that it's coming back. But I also had a comment on along those lines about penmanship and what it says about our personality. I mean, there's handwriting analysts that look at how we write, how we curve letters, and how that relates to the type of people we are. That is also an art, I guess, trying to figure out. The quote that I'd like to read is this one: more penmanship that betrayed the generation as well as the regional or class origins of the scribe. I can see where a student comes from. Like I can tell who my Latin American students are, as opposed to my students that were raised here, just by how they dot their I's and curve their letters. So it's very regional as well, I find. But yes, so fellow readers, think about what you write, or not that, but how you write it.
How you write it, yeah.
Because it'll say a lot about you.
Yeah. The adult learners that I have that I teach, and I tell them, I said, I'm watching the way you're holding your pencil or your pen. I don't know, that's something else, but we learn about cursive, why it's important not to pick up the pencil. And it's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, I wrote It's a Lost Art, and at that time Liliana was writing a lot. She had beautiful writing, beautiful penmanship, and I think that is a testament to how much she would write. Her penmanship improved, right? I don't even want to know what these teenagers penmanship looks like right now.
Well, ever since COVID, a lot of students were using technology, right,
to submit
their assignments, and I think we have relied heavily on it, and a lot of penmanship has been lost because of it. And we almost have to go back and reteach it and reteach the importance of writing clearly, and nicely and
legibly, Wow. What page?
79.
79. I'm at 59.
Okay.
In a society where landlines were still a luxury item that parents oversaw with stern zeal, phone calls were not safe. Telegrams were absolutely out of the question, but writing letters was simple. They just had to put aside a couple of pages from a notebook, or buy, if necessary, a good sheet of cotton or colored paper with stylized margins and find an envelope. If an envelope wasn't readily available, it was enough to fold the chosen paper in some intricate design and then seal it with an adhesive tape or a colorful label. I remember middle school and high school writing letters to my friends, folding it in a certain way, and then in passing periods, like we were going to see each other in lunchtime. But clearly wasn't paying attention in class.
It's just like the kids that are texting each other. They're doing it even in the same classroom.
Yeah.
It's like you're going to see each other later.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's very telling of our generations, I think.
Yeah.
And it's sad because, I don't know, I think everything gets lost in the digital world.
Yeah.
It's very different when you can actually have a box of letters that you wrote to each other. And I think that's what makes this book so beautiful, because I don't know if it would be the same book without Liliana's letters.
It wouldn't,
right?
She wouldn't have written it because this is what she had to be like, I can write it now.
This is what she built on.
Yeah. It's Liliana's voice.
So I have to say that, we need to write each other more letters, Lily.
Oh, let's do that. Pen pals, pen pals.
Yes, you should write letters to your friends, to your, your loved ones.
Tangible letters, not emails.
Yes.
Not the same thing.
That is true. Even, a nice card. It's very different than just sending a text expressing your we really need to go back to that.
It's concrete. You hold it. It's there forever. A text, once it goes away, you can't bring it back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there, but you have to scroll through all of them. It's not the same. It's not the same sentiment, really. Yeah. So, Cristina Rivera Garza travels to Mexico. She finds her sister's, there's boxes in her room with cards and notes and letters. Her penmanship. Her life, right?
Yes. Documented.
Notes. Yeah, and she finds that and she's going through it, and that's what she uses. And some of it is written here verbatim, I believe.
Yes, she included some text.
From Liliana, and I think that's what makes this book really different. It's Cristina's point of view and actually Liliana's point of view from back then. So you get to know her as herself, while even her sister is here in the U.S. She's with her friends. Different personalities, it appears.
And we're not there yet. I mean,
we're not there yet.
Well, I mean, we see this towards the end of the book, the testimonials.
From the friends.
When she interviews friends, when she interviews her parents, and it got me thinking, what would people say about me if a book was being written about me? What do people remember about you when you're gone? And it was very beautiful to see that, everybody had great things to say about her and remembered her fondly. But let's move on.
I have page 78.
Okay, so I think we're about, along the same lines.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, there was something, and I think it was already we're into, and she uses different fonts, so you can clearly see which ones are Liliana's words or her letters. And there was one where she wrote something Milena. And that was a question. Do you know who Milena? I don't know what Milena is. I'm assuming it's somebody's name. How can you love so much without really loving? And she wrote Milena, 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 Milena.
Yes.
And that never came up again. So I thought I missed something. Nothing? No. Okay.
No, you're right. I mean, I don't know. But you see her playing with the word, using uppercase letters, lowercase letters.
Yeah.
Why do we repeat things? To convince ourselves of something, to exercise ourselves with something. But you're right. I wonder why she decided to include that. I don't know if we missed something.
Yeah.
On page 80, and you know what? On page 79, I wasn't going to mention it, but I am. Just because she mentioned the female teen band, Flans. And I was such a fan of their music, and I just really connected to Liliana. I'm around the same age as Liliana. If she were alive, she would be my age. So that was a special, I think, connection that I had with her from the start. So I discover how she liked the same music that I liked. And, additionally, she was the same age my daughter is now when she was murdered. So to see, I kept imagining throughout the book, what would she be like now? Would she have a daughter like me? What would her profession be? I mean, she wanted to be an architect. Like, what could she have built?
Yeah.
What could she have done? And it's just so frustrating.
Yeah.
To see such potential.
Yeah.
Ended in a senseless act of absurd violence.
Yes.
On page 80, I just wrote on love. So somebody talks about love, and I thought it was a very, very well put. So I'll just read it and see if it triggers any memories in any of us. Love hinders me, drives me crazy, suffocates me. I hate love. When my female friends share their love stories, enraptured by the minutiae of the encounter and the seeming inescapability of the affair, I can only read submission into them. Lack of freedom, professional failure. Many say they want to travel the world, achieve something of significance, but they end up falling in love and later getting pregnant, and soon their lives are behind them. Soon they are behind themselves. Someone must stop love. Someone must turn love away. It's just, you just see her going, right? Yeah. And clearly she's very I mean, I can see why she feels this way. Love is what got her sister into this mess. Or a very twisted perception of love. Because, I mean, if we remember, she tried to get away from this guy.
She did.
She wasn't with him because she was in love, as many other women do stay in toxic relationships because they are in love. But in Liliana's case, she had ended it with him, and he followed her, stalked her, harassed her. So she was no longer in love, but he claimed it was love.
Yeah.
So it's a sad way to describe love, but it's certainly, you certainly see these stories.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yes.
What page do you
And then in page 93,
okay,
I wrote red flags. So here we hear about Liliana's ex-boyfriend. I forgot his name. Angel. Oh, how ironic. What a name, right? Come on.
Angel.
An angel. He bombarded her with flowers and chocolate boxes, rides between school and home, and a relentless attention she described as his vehemence. Was a 16-year-old girl equipped to identify the menacing grip of control. So I work with high schoolers, and I see this all the time. The girl feels flattered because she's getting all this attention, all these gifts. And, we almost have to teach girls that this is not necessarily an expression of love, but one of control, that they want to control you. And maybe they don't even know it. Maybe the boys don't even know it.
No. And they do it in public so others can see this.
Yes, that is true.
Right?
Yes. By May, Liliana harbored some doubts and a general unease, which she interchangeably called nerves and hysteria, tainted her letters. So she's feeling, her body's telling her that this guy is weird.
Yeah.
And the way he shows his love does not feel okay. But, she's not listening to her body. Yeah. She is still with him. She is confused. But again, right? I think we've told you this before in the other books we've read. The body tells you, but you don't want to listen.
Yeah.
Or
Well, because that was her high school boyfriend, so she doesn't want to believe that.
And further down in the page, on page 93, and I've been meaning to watch this movie, fellow reader, so maybe we should watch it. It's called Gaslit, and because of this movie from the 1940s, the term came about from the movie, and it talks about a wife whose husband tries to basically is driving her nuts, making her question her reality, and the way the plot is designed. It's called gaslit, and ever since then, that's where this term that is so commonly used now came from. So I think
in 1940.
We need to go back to that movie because it's a theme that pops up in a lot of our books, Lily.
I know. So, we have a better.
Yes. You have homework, fellow reader. We have homework.
We have homework. Gaslight.
Yes.
1940 by, I forgot the author.
I already lost it.
Richard will put it down in the comments.
Yes, he will.
He will. He will.
Maybe one day you'll see him.
Maybe one day he'll make
he'll come in front of the camera. Page 99.
Okay.
So here I said, sometimes we are so wrapped up in our own stuff, we do not see the pain others are going through. During Angel and Liliana's first major breakup, I was at a point in my life where I just wanted to be free. And this is Cristina speaking to us about her stuff. And she's busy. She's, I'm not sure if at this point she has left to study abroad in the United States or she's close to leaving. But it's true. Sometimes you've got your own stuff going on.
Yeah.
And so she did not see what was happening with her sister. And from what she tells us in the pages ahead, many of the people that were close to her missed the signs because we're busy with life.
Yeah. And I have, what page are you? Do you have 106?
Go ahead.
Oh, I have 106. And it talks about how Cristina was writing short stories. She was writing stuff. And one of her characters is Xian. Xian. She talks about Xian drinking, and Xian is a character that you're like, that's an interesting character. Why would you write about that? And then I wrote, well, was Xian her? Because she talks about how she was smoking, Cristina was smoking marijuana, she was drinking whiskey with her friends, partying. So I wondered, did she create this character in her short stories as a reflection of herself? Kind of like, this is me, but I'm not going to name it me. I'm going to name it a different character. And I guess this character makes an appearance in several of her books. So I was just wondering if that's her and why.
Yeah, maybe she is.
You guys okay with the sun?
Oh, yeah. We're good.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yes, fine. On page 107, I'll read a quote, and maybe it'll remind me of why I underlined it.
Okay.
Did we have a chance to discuss our own loneliness as we briefly coexisted and then grew apart in Mexico City? I think she talks about Cristina and her sister. They're living their own lives, being students. And it just reminded me of women in general, and how we are all so busy with so much. And we maybe talk to each other, but we really don't.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, this is just a reminder to you to check in, with your friends and make sure they're okay. Because that's what these books do, right? They teach us, they make us reflect. And I think Cristina reminded me of that. Lily and I are blessed to have many friends. And we want to keep it that way.
Yes.
We want our friends to be okay. So make sure your friends are okay.
Yeah. Not just a text. It's hard to
spend quality time like we do.
Yeah, exactly.
110?
110. Yeah, me too.
Okay, go for it.
Well, I wrote, I agree.
Okay, that'll help you. Being a student is one of the most beautiful stages in life. That's the part that I underlined. And I wrote, does this generation realize that? Is it one of those things you appreciate when it's over? Or only when it's in the past? Like I tell my students all the time, you're so lucky. You get to your full-time job is to just learn.
Yes, I know.
And, for us, it's so hard, right, to make time to read because we have our jobs and lives. But we made a point to do this. Because reading is important to us and learning. And I do agree that it is a beautiful stage in life to be a lifelong learner.
And I wrote, it is clear to me that this is her dad writing to her. Her dad, right, was abroad.
Was telling her this. You're right.
He was in Germany, I believe, or somewhere, getting his PhD, and they would write letters to each other, more to Liliana, not so much to Cristina.
He had a closer relationship with Liliana. Yes.
And he said, and he writes to her, where is it? It is clear to me that you now spend most of your time away from home, but remember that it is these slightly difficult moments that forge a person's character, making her stronger and preparing her for life in the future. You know your principles. You have my full support. Life is earned with courage, persistence, and a lot of will and work. I said, I agree. It shapes you when you're not at home. Right? When you have to kind of move on.
That independence.
It shapes who you are. And I think that's really important.
University campuses are some of the most beautiful places, it's a place where you just see, the learning, thriving. They were such a beautiful family. They had such supportive parents.
Yeah, but scholars. Both mom and dad were scholars, so definitely the support was there for both of them to continue their schooling.
115?
Me too, but maybe a different section.
Okay, I'm at the top. I
have a question mark. I don't know what that means.
While you figure it out, I'll read to our friends.
Oh, yeah.
It's New Year's Eve, and she's looking she says, I believe she was gazing at us differently. I think she's talking about her sister. She's thinking about her. And my question was, are the dead with us? Is there like a sixth sense? Like she's feeling that her sister's watching her. And, it's just that feeling that her sister's presence is there. And I've always wondered, like, are they with us?
Are they with us, or you want them to be with you? So you kind of...
Yeah, is it the nostalgia?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Interesting.
our thoughts about.
It's like, it would be nice to think like they are here.
Yeah, that
right?
they're watching over us, that they don't leave us.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It makes it a little easier, I guess.
More bearable.
Yeah. And so after New Year's Day, there's a question mark. On New Year's Day, she's walking by the park, and there's somebody that approaches her riding a bike, hands her an envelope, and it has two bills inside, a 20 and a 5.
Oh.
The cyclist had already vanished. And my question mark is like, well, why?
Wow, I missed
Just
that.
random.
There it is. Yeah.
Just gave her an envelope.
Oh, and she freaked out. She even thought it was like anthrax.
Yeah, I remember the spirit.
Remember anthrax?
I remember that.
Yes.
And people still lick those envelopes.
Yeah.
But yeah, why? And I don't know why.
And she
is
said,
that a thing that I missed? New Year's Eve, you just
no,
hand
she just
people
said
bills?
Right.
I've been in the wrong place.
Well, that's true. I
Nobody
mean,
handed me anything. Nobody has told me anything.
Oh, that is, yes.
Remember that?
I'm looking at that. And
so
we never got any clarity for that.
After that, I was like, well,
what she did say
mean?
is that, what she did say, was it Liliana sending me this? Like, was it related to Liliana? So, again, you know, is she imagining things? Is she, you know, is her desire to see her sister so strong that she thinks she sent her this guy with $25 pesos, whatever it was.
I think it was in Houston. So
I don't even know why I underlined this, but right after that, it says, living in grief is this, never being alone, invisible, but evident in many ways. The presence of the dead accompanies us in the tiny interstices. I don't know if I pronounced that. Richard can spell it for us. Do you see
interstices?
Yes. Yeah, well, it's a new word that I'm learning now that I failed to look up. Usually I do that.
Me too.
Yes.
That's why I like my Kindle. I can look it up. But
yes. So, I mean, like we said earlier, right? Are they with us?
Yeah.
We like to believe that they are, especially with such a close. I mean, this is her sister.
Yeah.
I am blessed that I haven't had such a loss in my life, but I can only imagine, you know, and a young woman.
Yeah.
You know, just such a violent death.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very different when you lose people when they're older, and it's just natural causes, whereas it's such a violent act.
Yeah.
123, Lily.
Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
So, after the brutal repression at the bottom of the page of October 2nd, when between 150 and 200 students were massacred by the government of Gustavo Díaz Ordaz. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents there because I did study this, and it made an impact in me when I learned about this. I was probably, I don't know, 18, 19 years old. I got to travel abroad and study in Mexico. And for some reason, maybe because I was young, I was at a young age, I was impressionable. But these were students that were protesting many things. Amongst those things, the amount of money the Mexican government was spending on the Olympics in 1968. The fact that they threw a couple of high school students in jail because they got into some kind of a fight. And people just thought it was an excessive punishment for these kids. And people started taking the streets protesting, and the movement grew and grew and grew. And the Mexican government was so concerned with how it was being seen internationally, because by then the Olympics were like 10 days away. And they really wanted to control this movement that was just growing out of control. And so they decided to massacre almost, the Guardian says it was around 300 people in La Plaza de las Tres Culturas, in La Plaza de Tlatelolco. And people that go there say that they can feel the heaviness of the plaza. So I just thought, you know, when I read that, it's like, oh, you know, they're in that area. It's just it's a very different, I guess, vibe is the word I'm looking for. I don't know. When you're a student in a city where something like this has happened.
Yeah.
Right?
Not for the optics.
Yes.
They didn't want these tourists coming and seeing the protest. So.
Yes. So they.
Ouch. Yeah. That's sad.
And in page 125, I wrote something about, adding to what we just said, towards the end of the page, They mentioned Ayotzinapa student, and I'm not sure if you heard about this, but in 2014, in the state of Guerrero, these students were kidnapped. So ironically, they were every year on October the 2nd, there's protests and there's marches to remember that massacre. And ironically, these students from Ayotzinapa who were students of teaching, they wanted to be teachers. They took buses to Mexico City to join the movement, and they were kidnapped and murdered.
Wow.
And there were investigations being done, and there really were no justice was done, but people say that it was the narcos. So before it was the government, and now the narcos. And currently, it's been said that chemistry students are being kidnapped by the narcos for their labs. And this is actually happening as we speak, I believe.
Wow.
So it is, I think what I'm trying to say is that it's been dangerous for different reasons to be a student in Mexico. And it's just, it makes me angry. I don't know. But anyway. On page 126, we see that Angel must have been terrified here, I told Saul. Anyone obsessed with control would be scared by a campus as open as this. So I think what I wanted to add here is that Angel must have felt threatened by the fact that Liliana was educated.
Yeah.
And Liliana had a future and she had dreams and he was going nowhere.
Yeah.
And he was afraid of losing her and losing control.
She had a lot of friends too.
Yes. And so being on the college campus was particularly threatening to Angel. And then on page 127, it says the presence of any young woman who has survived or has not survived gender violence. She mentions, murdered girls on the murdered girls from college campuses. And I just made a note here, and I can't remember how I tied it to this, but I just had to add that DEI is important, right? We need the protection, the representation of women on college campuses. And we need to recognize that femicide is a problem and it's a risk. It's very, I don't know if when you were in college, Lily, they had security on campus that would walk you to your car or walk you to your dorm if you were studying late at night.
I never took night classes, and I lived at home, so I didn't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah. But just walking you to the parking lots, I don't know how long that's been going around. I know that it's still a service provided on college campuses because, women are targets. I mean, that's the reality. It continues to be a problem. Page 133?
33? Yes.
I just said in the U.S. we have failed the younger generation. So let me read what triggered this for me. In 1988, when we all believed that Cuauhtémoc Cárdenas, a popular candidate for leftists, would unseat the archaic institutional revolutionary party, at least in Mexico City, we felt very important as we cast our ballots. Then further down the page, what do we want democracy? When do we want it now? We were just these young women, barely 18 years old, and we demanded the impossible. And I feel like our younger generation has been screaming for this, and we have not delivered. Quite the opposite. We've delivered the wrong things.
I have 146.
Go on, 146.
I just wrote title, and I think this is where it came from. This is This is still Cristina, I think. This is how we became real friends around the 5th trimester. I had a boyfriend who was from Cuernavaca, and he rented a room in a house here in Mexico City. A girl lived there too, and soon they got together. When I realized what was going on, I burst into tears in the classroom. Lily came over and hugged me. It's not worth it, she said. She handed me a piece of paper. In the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. This is your winter, she added, and it will pass. Don't cry for anyone. This is her younger sister, Liliana, telling her.
This is actually one of her friends. I just looked back. This is where we're hearing the testimonials. So Norma is a friend, and she's telling us, she's having a memory of, Liliana, and when Liliana gave her this piece of paper. So yeah, we're at the testimony. It is a little,
yeah, it's confusing a bit.
Yes, and especially when we're trying to remember what we read.
Let me tell you what was confusing, because there's 2 Angels in the story in here.
Which one's the second one?
There's an Angel Lopez, which was one of her friends, and the other one is Angel with an R. It'll come up. And so when I was reading that, I'm like, I'm so confused. But then I figured out there's 2, because it does, and it does show here the name, so you kind of have to keep track, because there was a lot of friends.
Yes. And that's great to see that she had so many friends that remembered her.
Yes. So this is when Cristina was already interviewing the friends, and this friend Norma told her, right, about how she came over and said it's okay, and gave her something about Invincible Summer. So I'm thinking that's where this came from. This a very strong.
Well, it's at the beginning. It's a quote from Albert Camus. And I think Isabel Allende has a book with the same title or a similar title. So it's a beautiful quote. I can see why it's reused. 157?
157. And throughout the book, there's actual real photographs.
Yes.
Of her, Liliana, of her, with her and her friends. So it kind of puts a face to the name sometimes, so it's nice. Sorry, what page?
157.
Okay, I don't have it.
I just wrote trigger. Her world was expanding while his was turning upside down, which is what we mentioned earlier, right? He has no future. He's not going anywhere. He's not doing anything with his life. But she's going places, and that, that really didn't sit well with him. I told my daughter I'd give her a shout out because she also read this book. And this is what she called a beautiful passage. So I will read it. Okay. It's on page, and I don't know if you have something before that, Lily. Page 166.
I do have 160.
Okay, let's do that first, and then I'll read the most beautiful passage according to my daughter.
Page 160, Norma.
One of her friends.
Yeah, one of her friends. The guy was very persistent, the guy being Angel.
Yes.
She was or seemed to be going steady with Manolo. This was a guy that she was kind of dating. She was interested in. They were interested in each other. But Angel still insisted that she was his girlfriend. Red flag.
Yeah.
I never witnessed any violence between them. And this is between Angel and Liliana. But, upside down. Just because you didn't witness doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yes.
So, and I'm going to guess Liliana never really shared their what goes on behind closed doors, right?
Well.
But then you start hearing how there were some little things here and there. Just the fact that he still said, she's my girlfriend, but yet Liliana's over here with somebody else. Okay, guy, she's not your girlfriend anymore.
Exactly.
So nobody told him that. I don't know, but
he didn't get the memo.
He did not get them. He did not get the text in 1990. But he was not accepting it. So,
and I think that's what's even more upsetting, Lily. Like she made it clear so many times, like she's moving on. And he is just like he will not.
Yeah, but then
let her go.
You read somewhere that he still would pick her up from school and take her back to Toluca.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he just. Oh, she's calling me again. Well, maybe I'm her boyfriend again, but.
What the understanding was between the two of them. Yeah, maybe she said, we can only be friends.
We can only be friends, but and he never understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is like a lot of the, this book is like a puzzle.
Yeah.
You're seeing pieces, but they don't all fit together.
Yeah.
And I guess the way it's organized too has a lot to do with just following the the chronology. Did I say that right?
Yeah, I think so. I understood. I'm sure you understood.
Oh, God. It's been a long day.
It's been a long day.
So here goes the most beautiful passage. She wanted us to do a little ceremony. Oh, so here she's talking about a bird, I think. Yes, freedom, she reminded me all the time, was the most important possession in life. When we finally opened the bag, we expected the sparrow to fly off, but she didn't. The bird took a couple of steps on the grass, and then she stopped and fell to her side. We tried to revive her, but we soon realized it was all over. Her death broke our hearts. She is in a better place now, I told Liliana, who remained motionless, in shock, as if something had been shattered inside her. She was about to be free, she said quietly as we walked toward her house. She is free, I said, trying to reassure her. And it's just, so prophetic, right? That this actually happened with Liliana and her friend, and little did they know that it was going to apply to Liliana herself. And I guess what her friend meant is that death is a certain type of freedom, and that is the ultimate irony.
That was the only way to escape this guy.
Yeah. Yes. Sadly.
So they bought this bird from a man who was selling birds that were in a cage, and they bought this bird along with other stuff to go with their other friend for his birthday. And one of his birthday presents was going to be like, we're going to release this bird and give it freedom.
And that's, and yes, and it did not work out well.
It did not work out very well.
193.
Oh, I have page 170.
Okay.
Does she lead them on? So there was a trip that they went. I don't remember where, but she went with a group of friends. No, first this friend Raul. Remember that? Invited her to go somewhere to Oaxaca. They bought tickets. They were going to go with his friends. But then she decided not to go with him. She was going to the same place, but with her friends. So his friends were kind of making fun of him. But then they saw each other over there. And then she started hanging out with him. But then kind of like, no, I'm going to go back to my friends. So my question was she like leading him on? Like she wasn't saying, I don't want to be with you. But she wasn't saying I want to be with you either. So Raul was confused, I think.
Yeah, I think, that trip? Yes, I think Liliana was such a free spirit. Yeah. I think she just wanted to have fun.
She didn't want a conventional relationship.
She didn't want to commit. Whereas what's his name? Raul was, I mean, it's from how she's described, it sounds like a lot of guys fell for her and were, and he seems like he wanted more from this relationship, and maybe that wasn't communicated very well. Again, we have bits and pieces. Yeah. Maybe she did communicate it, and he didn't get it.
Yeah, another one.
But yes, for sure, we're getting his perspective, and he was definitely confused.
Very confused. Yeah, and she just wanted to hang out.
Yes,
have friends.
Yes,
right?
have fun.
Have fun. Yeah. Page 176.
Go ahead.
I have weird behavior. Who has? Let me go back and see. Raul, more of Raul.
So you're very worried about Raul.
I'm worried about Raul.
Yes.
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 Why she had behaved the way she did? What was troubling her, keeping her tied up inside? We sat on the sand. I looked at her, and she stared at the ocean. This is Liliana having weird behavior. I felt so ill last night, Raul. I didn't feel right, she said. She hesitated, and then she added, it didn't feel right. I just want to leave everything behind, she continued. And then she paused. The sound of the ocean filled the silence. I met my friends by pure chance on the beach, she said, looking me in the eye. I took her in, finding that place within me that belonged to her. They invited me to join them again, she said lightly. And that's it, she concluded. Was she half smiling, half resigned, self-deprecating herself? Was she aware that I would never look at her this way ever again? That's it, I repeated. It's finally dawned on me. That was it. So she was acting kind of weird. And she didn't know why. And I don't know why either. Because she would go back to her friends, then go back to him.
And then we have Angel in the background, right, stalking her.
Still Angel somewhere over there paying a homeless man to give her. It does come up later.
Oh, that's true.
He does pay this homeless man that lives by her to give him Give him information.
And, I think, as we're going through the book, like, again, we're confused, frustrated. Imagine what her sister, Cristina Rivera Garza.
Yeah, because they never got answers, really. They really didn't get answers.
And it's almost like there's more questions now that you've written the book, right?
Yeah.
Like there's...
Now that she found her letters and read them, it's like...
Yes. It's like you want to know more, but those answers will not be coming.
Yeah,
They just won't.
Mm-hmm.
What page do you?
I don't have one till 187.
Go ahead.
So then there's another friend, Ana. Her friend Ana, right? Very close friend. She writes to Ana. They write to each other. And then I wrote this. I don't know if you got this.
I didn't because I didn't write anything.
Was she, Liliana, in love with Ana?
Oh my God, Lily. Why? Read me. What gave you that vibe?
I will tell you. Dear Ana. Let me read the letter to you guys.
180.
Dear Ana.
Okay, yes.
And there's a picture.
Uh-huh.
I don't know who that guy is, but there's a picture there.
Yeah.
Dear Ana. Dearest Ana, beloved Ana. Ana, what sounds better to you? Ana? Anyway, Ana, again, sus. Ana, yes. Everything comes right on time. Even these 20 years managed to catch up with us. I want to get it exactly right. But what can I tell you? Stoke something that you want to be stoked up. Encourage those hidden dreams that will enliven mind and body. I couldn't say more than what you already feel because all this is so deeply rooted inside of us. Inside you, Ana, strong Ana, Ana love, Ana my child. Let's face our own desires without all our audacity, without paying a heed to time, be it 4 centuries since Napoleon or 2 days after this autumn, without respecting distance because if necessary, we will fly from the most distant diamond mine in Africa to the very ice of the Arctic. Very poetic also. Without fearing barriers or obstacles. Face your own desires with a premeditation so strong that it will make room for our beliefs and our shortcomings. What could we possibly fear? Wherever you decide to go, my support will follow you as long as you don't give up because there is no responsibility more sacred and atrocious than that which forces us to be truly ourselves. With love, Liliana. And there were other ones too that were like...
Yeah. Well,
what desires do you need?
I think that, at that age, young people are exploring their sexuality. It's the 90s. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. Again, I don't know what the author would think of your speculations, Lily. Those are hers.
Cristina Rivera Garza.
She said it,
please,
not me.
Because there's others that I'm like, and I was like, was she in love with Ana?
Yeah, let us know what you think.
In the comments. For those of you that read it, tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. Or what do you think? Now she got me thinking. And again, different times.
Different times, yeah. And she, like you said, she was very free-spirited.
I do have to say, Lily, and I don't know if you remember this, but, I did go to school in Mexico as a child for a bit. And one of the things that, for me, which was a culture shock, is how girls... and even girls that are recent arrivals to this country are always holding hands and walking arm in arm, locking arms. And other kids would be looking at them like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like, we don't do that here. It's a cultural thing. So maybe, this excessive, expressive love is just a cultural thing as well.
Yeah. Maybe that's what they do. They do express themselves because we don't do that here. I'm not...
Yeah.
We don't. Lori is my childhood best friend, and I'm not going to tell her, Lori, I love you. I do love you, Lori. Yeah. I do love you. Yes. But I'm not going to say, Lori, I love you.
And she's not going to walk arm in arm with her.
No, I'm not. That's just, but we'll hang out. Lori.
So maybe it's just a cultural thing.
Maybe.
But you let us know what you think,
let us know,
dear reader.
For those of you that knew Liliana.
Yeah.
Or Ana. Ana, do you want to respond? Ana Oscadiz?
Yes, Ana.
Ocadiz, sorry, Ocadiz. Hold on. Let me read something. Ana wrote this also, another letter, but let me...
So Lily, the Ana that she wrote to responded. Lily, yes.
If you knew the desire that I harbor toward a friend, the friend that I always wanted, that I feel such a great and tangible love present as a human being, Anyways, that was between her and...
Yeah. Well, it's definitely there's a lot of dots in between, maybe because...
Like fill in the words,
yes,
Maybe
Cristina wanted to leave those parts out, or maybe she did not understand the handwriting. So that it makes it harder to understand.
Yeah, and
The
decipher
full
and
communication between the two.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the book too. You know, you speculate and you wonder. It gets you thinking.
It's all you after this.
193? Really? Okay.
Yeah, no, I
Well,
just keep reading.
You gotta help me out,
I
Nini.
will. Oh, do you want me to find something?
Okay, let me see. Let me start, and then you could just
Okay, I'll add to it.
I drew a heart here, because we mentioned the language and how she writes beautifully.
Yeah.
And I loved the way she expressed this. So I'll read it, and then we'll see why I was so enraptured by it. I found messages she received from others and messages she wrote herself. They are pieces of a very complex puzzle that I will never quite finish putting together. One upon another, these writings are layers of experience that have settled over time. My task is to desediment them with the care of an archaeologist who touches without damaging, who dusts without breaking. My intention is to open and preserve this writing at the same time, and recontextualize it in a reading from the present. And I mean, the fact that she compared herself to an archaeologist, I just thought that was beautiful.
Well, and she wants to take good care of these letters.
Yes, they're precious.
It's like she's touching something that belonged to her sister, that were very valuable to her sister, because she kept them in a box in her closet.
Well, and when our loved ones are gone, you know, they're gone, their bodies are gone. You know, we don't see their faces. I mean, we see them in pictures, I guess, but this is something concrete that her sister touched, that she wrote. She put her thoughts. And it also got me thinking, like, what will we leave our loved ones behind? What will they find when they're gone?
Tell podcast.
Us. Yes, please.
Yes. We'll leave a podcast behind.
We're leaving a podcast. But you know what? What do you think? Like, if people were rummaging through your things when you're gone, what would they find?
What do you want them to find?
And maybe there's certain things you don't want them to find, so maybe you should get rid of them.
Away.
Yes.
Lesson learned.
Yes, get it safe.
Them away.
On the next page, Lily.
Bury them. But when you're dead, who cares what you...
Unless you're like floating around and watching over people. How embarrassing when you're like, oh.
Yeah, oops.
Oh, my daughter knows this about me.
Right?
My friend.
Get rid of it.
Yes. Yes.
Get rid of it now.
194, I wrote, every action has a psychological effect on the victim. Let me read. And Liliana, brave and loving, tried what so many women have done in her place. She opposed this violence, tried to escape it, denied it, attached herself to it, resisted it, deactivated it, negotiated with it. She did everything she thought possible and imaginable until just a short time before the femicide that took her life, she left him. So, yes, it was to me exhausting to read all the things that she did to get out, and she still couldn't shake this guy off.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that this isn't a couple of sentences, that this is a process. It went on for, I don't remember how long it went on for, but too long.
Too long.
Yes. On page 196, I wrote typical prototype, and let me read what I was referring to. Like many women in her situation, Liliana tried everything, surrounding herself with a strong circle of trusted friends, falling in love in healthier ways, devoting herself to architecture, preparing herself for an independent life. But at every turn, in the least expected moments, Angel would show up over and over again, telling her that he loved her, apologizing, assuring her that he was going to change. Angel wasn't just asking, however, he was demanding a response. And if it wasn't what he wanted to hear, he would unleash a fury of jealousy, beatings, constant harassment, suicide threats, and perhaps threats against Liliana's own family.
Gross.
Like I said, the typical prototype. How many women go through all of this or some of this, right? On page 202, I just said wise motto. Sex education to decide, contraceptives to avoid abortion, legal abortion to prevent dying. The motto is as valid now as it was when chanted for the first time by Argentine feminists. Green scarves held aloft in protest. We need to get green scarves.
Yeah.
We should have gotten them for today.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. We missed it. Yes. But it really is. I mean, if we did these things, we could avoid so many problems. And we don't. Moving on. I said on page 214 that I loved this analogy at the very end of the page. If a bear attacks you, do you attack him back, knowing that he can easily kill you? Or do you play dead and give in? Right?
Is that how she was, right?
Yes. I mean, they tell you to play dead if you come across. What would you do? Do you fight the bear? So the analogy is that this man is so crazy and psychotic and angry that if you fight him, you will lose. So you play dead, and by playing dead, which is what it says here on page 215, victims stay because they know that any sudden move will provoke the bear.
Mm-hmm. And I know they said it a few times that he could have been carrying a gun, right?
Yeah.
Some people saw the bolt or something and the fact that, and it was because he was, who said it? Somebody said it, that he was also trying to say, I will kill myself if you leave me. So that's like...
And I think like we hear this a lot. People think it's so easy to just leave an abusive relationship like that. And so that's part of, why we're reading a lot of these quotes, because we're very quick to judge women.
Yeah.
Or we just say, oh, well, just get help. Well, it's not that easy. There's so many layers to this problem. And Liliana gives us an example of that. Let's see. Moving on to page 227. I'm not sure who is telling us this. I think it's just Cristina giving us some stats. In addition to the presence of firearms, which you just mentioned, or suicide threats. Oh my God, Lily, you knew what was coming.
Yeah.
In addition to violent jealousy, constant harassment, and traces of physical and sexual violence, the danger assessment tool that Snyder analyzes in No Visible Bruises emphasizes the danger of a victim becoming isolated. So she cites this book frequently, which we have not read, No Visible Bruises, which basically is a sociological study of domestic abuse. I wrote on page 237 something about a paradox. Rachel Lewis Snyder, the same book, convincingly argued that women receiving death threats from the men claiming to love them are asked to execute an impossible cognitive leap. Admitting the reality of the threat would require radically questioning the very narrative that made it possible in the first place, a situation her intellect could not come to terms with. So I had never seen it phrased that way. And it helped me make sense of it, right? That you're staying because it's almost like you're gaslighting yourself. So it was interesting the way she phrased it. And then on page 256, I found it, I don't even know what word to use, very heartbreaking, for lack of a better word. On 256, this is when I think Cristina goes to Mexico City. She's been notified that her sister has been murdered. Her parents are in Europe.
Yeah, they're abroad.
Yeah, they're abroad. I forget where, but they're abroad. So Cristina is the closest relative. She flies in from Texas. And the way she tells us how she is asked to identify the body of her sister, I thought it was interesting. She narrates it in the third person. Someone is approaching. Someone hugs her. She's talking about herself, Cristina. It's almost like she's having this out-of-body experience. And I'll read a part of it, just so you can get an idea. There is an office. The door opens, a door made of rusty metal that once bore the color of old gold. Behind that door lies a dark room with low ceilings, which soon turns into many other rooms. The space gives off a musty smell, the reek of solid and useless instruments of time contained. Then suddenly comes the scent. Something unknown, something without a proper name that goes for the nose and, abruptly, without asking permission or offering an explanation, forces itself through the nostrils, reaching with great impetus, with alacrity, without asking permission or offering an explanation, forces itself through the nostrils, reaching with great... I already read that. Lily, help. I think it was interesting how she's going through all the senses, right? It's going through her nose. It reaches her hypothalamus, the cerebral cortex, the temporal and frontal lobes. She's just rationalizing it in a different way to, again, this out-of-body experience.
Yes. How long does this whole process take? Because it's eternal for her.
Yes. And then she says, someone asks me that. Do you want to see her? How horrible. I've never seen it narrated that way. I mean, we've read a lot, you know, we've seen a lot in TV shows and movies, but just the way she tells it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like you're there because she's
yes,
telling
she takes you there.
like, use your senses. What am I supposed to?
They're flying all over the place, our Post-its. 277. We're almost there. We're almost there. Again, in No Visible Bruises.
Let's show a picture.
Yes.
That is him right there.
Yes. If you see him,
if you see,
call the authorities.
No hair. I'm sure.
Well, he's a lot older now. Yes. Oh.
I'm sorry, what?
I hope he's not a happy man wherever he is.
No.
No Visible Bruises. Survivors often blame themselves. Page 277. Their negligence or their blindness or unprecedented harshness. They did not protect what they most loved. They did not notice what should have been blatant before their eyes. They didn't stop the predator. The pain that is not detached, not even a millimeter from guilt and shame, gets stuck before morning can begin, staying in a formless limbo where words lose meaning and the connection with others and with the world fades slowly. Families flee inward, hiding even from themselves. What right do they have to demand justice when they themselves were not able to protect their own?
That's hard.
From danger. Yes.
That's hard for the families.
Yes.
Like, why didn't we see the signs? What should we, like, just the what ifs.
Yes.
Why didn't we do something before? But if they didn't see it, and it talks about the parents really didn't know him, huh? He never really set foot in their house except one time.
I remember there was a scene where the dad confronts him because he...
Oh, yeah. The way he was dressed.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
It was an affront. It was disrespectful to his daughter, he said. And Liliana came between them and she kind of took her dad inside and said, you know, he'll never show up like that again. And it made me so angry because I thought, God, if he only knew, if this upset him, the way he was dressed to come and visit and court his daughter, like that was the least of his worries.
Yeah.
You know?
And
just right below that, the system in charge of blaming the victim, moreover, starts working when things are still fresh and it does not stop over the years. So again, what you were saying, you know, the trauma that they have to carry on top of the mourning process and the judgment that comes from people.
Yeah.
Because people judge when, you know, when they don't, especially when it doesn't happen to them.
Yeah, it's easy. Point fingers.
Yeah, and I had... I think one more thought. I just wrote on freedom, page 292. I am convinced that's what happened. I gave Liliana and you a lot of freedom.
Yeah,
this is her dad, right?
That.
I have always believed in freedom because only in freedom can we know what we are made of. Freedom is not the problem. Men are the problem. Violent, arrogant, murderous men. I'm so glad he understood that and that he didn't filled with regrets because he gave his daughters freedom, because I think that's what a protective, loving father would think. Okay, now I have to shelter my daughter, the one that's left, and not let her go anywhere. And he realized, no, it wasn't the freedom. It was the murderous man that took his daughter. And let's remember that, because tragedies happen and we need to remember that it's the victim is not the problem, and the way you lead your life is not the problem, but the criminal, murderer.
The murderer.
One last section, Lily, because we're already wrapping it up. We're next to a pool.
Oh, yes.
At an undisclosed location. And dear reader, if you read the book, we hope that you figured it out by now, but it's on the cover. And honestly, I didn't really pay attention to that until the end when I read what Cristina tells us about the importance of the pool for her and for Liliana. And so I'll read to you. I have said on numerous occasions that one swims to be alone, but that's only half true. Sometimes it is necessary to go alone to swim by oneself, next to no one, in order to join a communion in the water. Further down on the page, she says, Liliana will reside here with me as long as I plunge into the water, when I stroke and kick and breathing becomes flushed memory. She says, I swam further down the page in the pool. She talks about how she was swimming in other places, lakes. She just kept swimming. On page 301, she says, we smelled of chlorine back then. She's remembering when she swam with Liliana. Chlorine was the smell of our being. That's what our childhood still smells like now. Chlorine is the sign we remain together. Swimming was what we did together. We dashed into the world each on our own, but we came back to the pool to be sisters. This rectangle of water was the space of our most intimate sisterhood. I want to meet her again in the water. I want to swim as I always did, in my sister's company. And that is how she ends the book.
Liliana was a good swimmer. She was in swim teams, right? Or
yes,
something.
Yes.
She would swim in competitions. Had a lot of friends there too. So
I think, we must remember Liliana's story, and we must stand against domestic abuse, and we must be vigilant, and we must offer our support if we see signs of that happening to the women that we know. And we must not be judgmental. We must continue to educate ourselves and avoid trying to say, just leave, because it's not that simple. We hope that you learned that through Liliana's story. And thank you, Cristina Rivera Garza, for telling the story. It must have been hard.
It must have been hard. Hopefully, I hope she found some kind of closure with it, because we know that Angel was never caught.
That's true. I forgot to mention.
He left a few days after, never to be seen again. I don't know where I read or heard that that he was in Southern California somewhere. They even showed a picture of what he would look like.
Oh, because you saw you saw an
interview.
interview.
It was something else. Oh. Yeah. And so, who knows? We don't know, because he left and he was never to be seen again. But why would he leave if it wasn't him? It's a known fact.
Yeah.
He's the one that went into her apartment after her friend dropped her off at 10 o'clock at night and strangled her. And then she was found the next morning because her friend
who picked her up.
Or
was picking her up to go to school.
Yeah. What was sad is when the parents got home and Liliana's there waiting at their house, and they walked in and said, what are you doing here? Because she's supposed to be in Houston, right?
Yeah.
And she had to be the bearer of bad news and say she's
dead. They did mention that when they arrived from the airport, like a bunch of kids from the neighborhood ran to their car. And, by then they knew, but to see, just the community. They just didn't want that kind of attention. They had no time to process. Just such a moving, heartbreaking story. We don't even know how to end this other than by ending it and letting you know what's in store for our next podcast. I'll let Lily talk to you about this.
So this is She's Not Sorry by Mary Kubica?
Hopefully, yes.
So it's a dark and suspenseful thriller with delicious twists and compelling characters. Fiction. So we're not going to...
I have to say that I already finished it.
You're so good.
And it was good.
I'm excited.
There's so many twists. One of the reviewers said something about how you get whiplash. It was very well. Yes, it was. I was like, oh my God, it was so accurate, because you're just like, what? And you wonder the last 100 pages, like, what is she gonna add? Like, it should be done.
Yeah.
And it,
Yeah. Okay. I'm excited.
Yes. We're excited to talk to you about it. Please join us and leave us comments.
Yes.
And let us know what you think or what we missed. We would love to know what we missed.
Yeah. And if there's a book that you think we should read to discuss, let us know. Yes. We'll read anything.
Yes, we
even
will.
an autobiography.
Yes,
I didn't even know I was reading that.
Until next time, fellow bibliophiles.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Take care of yourselves.
Have a great weekend. Bye.
Oh, don't forget to show them our Post-its. Richard.
Just remember I said our Post-its.
Yes, our Post-its. You must see.
This is important because this is us. This is us.
This is
our
Lily's green, I'm orange.
What if we do pink next time?
Yes, we'll just switch it. We'll switch it up. We'll play with colors. Yes.
Okay. Just maybe. Our discussion there.